It all started, as most modern tragedies do, with a perfectly curated avocado toast. I know, how original. I was at this cafe, called The Daily Grind, which is ironic, because the only thing grinding there was my teeth, as I overheard a guy named Chad explain the blockchain to his very unimpressed date. I was trying to ignore them, focusing on the existential dread of my freelance graphic design career, when I noticed something odd. My avocado toast was vibrating, not like a phone call, more like a gentle, rhythmic hum. I poked it. It hummed louder. I figured it was just the overworked espresso machine having a seizure, so I took a bite. That is when the universe decided to get weird. The moment my teeth sunk into the sourdough, the avocado began to speak, not with a voice, mind you, but directly into my brain, like a telepathic, slightly mushy self-help guru. It said, and I am not making this up, "Kevin, your kerning is atrocious. First, my name is not Kevin. Second, how dare this fruit criticize my typographic choices?" I looked around. Chad was now explaining the virtues of gluten-free air. No one else seemed to notice my breakfast was having a go at my professional skills. I took another bite, mostly out of spite. This time, the avocado's voice was more insistent. "You are settling, Kevin. You used to dream of designing posters for indie bands. Now you are making logos for Catham cryptocurrency startups." Okay, it had a point, but I was not about to take life advice from a brunch staple. I tried to eat it faster, hoping to silence the verdant critic, but it was too late. The avocado had unlocked something. Suddenly, I could hear everything, not just sounds, but thoughts. The barista was mentally composing a scathing one-star review of her own life. Chad's date was picturing him as a giant, talking quinoa bowl. A pigeon outside was contemplating the futility of its existence. It was a cacophony of quiet desperation and banal daydreams. I clutched my head. The sheer volume of mediocrity was deafening. I stumbled out of the cafe, leaving behind a half-eaten, judgmental piece of toast. The world outside was a nightmare. Every person I passed was a broadcasting station of anxiety. A woman walking her poodle was obsessing over a typo in an email she sent 3 years ago. The poodle was just thinking about naps. Thank goodness for the poodle. I ran home, locked myself in my apartment, and tried to drown out the noise with loud music. It did not work. The thoughts just seeped through, layered over the guitar riffs. Apparently, the lead singer of my favorite band was mostly thinking about whether he left the oven on. The glamour of it all. I spent the next 2 days in a sensory deprivation tank I fashioned out of my bathtub and several blackout curtains. It was not effective. I could still hear my downstairs neighbor, Brenda, silently debating whether her ficus plant was judging her life choices. Spoiler alert. I was on the verge of a complete breakdown when I realized something. If I could hear their thoughts, what if they could hear mine? I decided to run an experiment. I walked to the park and sat on a bench near a man who was meticulously feeding pigeons. I focused all my mental energy and thought, as loudly as I could, "Your fly is down." He immediately glanced down, zipped up his pants, and shot me a suspicious look. It worked. Oh, this changed everything. This was not a curse. It was a superpower. A very specific and ethically dubious superpower. My first act of telepathic justice was small. I went back to the daily grind. Chad was there again, this time explaining the nuances of artisanal water to a new victim. I sat down a few tables away, took a deep breath, and projected. "Everyone thinks your man bun looks like a moldy croissant." A wave of stifled snickers rippled through the cafe. Chad turned beet red, mumbled something about a prior engagement, and fled. It was the most satisfying moment of my life. I felt powerful. I was a vigilante of social etiquette, a silent guardian against insufferable small talk. I started using my powers for good. Mostly, I helped people find their lost keys by broadcasting "check your other jacket pocket" into their brains. I prevented countless fashion faux pas by mentally screaming those patterns do not go together. I even became the world's most successful and invisible wingman. But absolute power, as they say, corrupts absolutely. It started subtly. I'd make people I disliked suddenly get the tune to the most annoying jingle ever stuck in their head. Then, I got bolder. I'd walk through the grocery store and make people question their every purchase. Do you really need that much cheese, Brenda? Think of your ficus. The real turning point came when my landlord, Mr. Henderson, tried to raise my rent for the third time in a year. I was furious. During our meeting, while he was droning on about market rates, I just pushed. I did not project words. I projected a feeling. An overwhelming, all-consuming urge to become a mime. He stopped mid-sentence. A strange, vacant look crossed his face. He stood up, painted an imaginary wall, got trapped in an invisible box, and then silently moonwalked out of my apartment. He was last seen trying to pull an invisible rope in the middle of traffic. He is now a moderately successful street performer in the tourist district. My rent has remained stable. This was a new level. I was not just influencing thoughts, I was rewriting personalities. I had gone from a disgruntled graphic designer to a walking, talking, ethically bankrupt reality warper. And I will be honest with you, it was exhilarating. I decided to aim higher. Why stop at landlords when you could fix, well, everything? I started with my city council. After one very intense and silent public hearing, they all unanimously voted to replace the city's entire fleet of buses with trained grizzly bears on roller skates. The logistics are still being worked out, but public morale is at an all-time high. Who does not want to see a bear on skates? Then I went national. Politicians, corporate executives, reality television stars. A prominent CEO suddenly liquidated his assets to fund a global network of free poopy cuddling centers. A world leader abandoned a tense international summit to pursue his lifelong dream of becoming a professional interpretive dancer. The world became a far more interesting, if slightly more chaotic, place. But he made a silent, snarky god in a hoodie, fixing the world one bizarre mental suggestion at a time. It was my masterpiece, my magnum opus of mental manipulation. If you enjoyed this descent into madness, be sure to hit that like button, share it with someone who enjoys questionable life choices, and subscribe for more existential dread.